Perfect. All right, so I'm going to get started this morning by going to opportunities, and that is where we start all of our transactions. So I'm going to get started over here by clicking on the shaking hands and clicking on opportunities. Now, I've already created an opportunity for this morning's class. So to find it, I'm going to click on all opportunities. And I'm going to scroll down to the opportunity that I made for this morning. So you can see here we have 6789 Main Street, Stark Potts listing. So that is the opportunity name, and that's written in a specific way so that way myself, the MCA office, and Lynn and Alita for compliance know exactly the property that's being considered, the name of the clients, as well as if it's a listing or a buyer. So I filled in all this information here, so we should be good to go. Now to get started in DocuSign, I'm going to click on the Documents tab. And this is going to take us to this screen where we can upload and add a bunch of different documents for compliance review. Now I do want to clarify something. You don't do any contract work at writing, submitting offers for signature in Command. That's all done in DocuSign. So to get started in DocuSign, I'm going to hit Start a Transaction, this big button right here in the right-hand corner. It's very important that you click Start a Transaction from within Command. By starting this transaction from Command, you are going to be linking your opportunity to your room in DocuSign, which means that you will then later on be able to seamlessly upload signed documents into Command for review. If you do not start a transaction from within Command and you just start a new room in DocuSign, you will never be able to retroactively link that opportunity to the room. If this doesn't make a lot of sense right now, that's fine. I'll show you towards the end of this training how you can easily upload and add documents from DocuSign to Command, which really is going to be one of the main benefits of using DocuSign with Command. So I'm going to click on Start a Transaction, and this is going to take me into DocuSign. Now I'm getting this error message, which has happened before. So when this happens, I'm just going to refresh the page, and usually 9 times out of 10, it'll say go to transaction, but let's give it another whirl. Let's click Start a Transaction. All right, we'll try refreshing the page and see one of the benefits of live trainings. I did see a couple of posts on Facebook this morning about people having a similar issue. So let me click on Start a Transaction. All right, so this isn't working. So I'm going to clear all my browser data to see if that helps. Let's do all my cache and cookies. Finger crossed this helps. So one of the benefits of live training is we get to troubleshoot real life issues in the moment. Perfect. All right, so I've deleted my cache and cookies. It's going to have me log back into Command. So signing back in here, I'll click Accept Cookies. I'll go back to Opportunities because that's where all of my opportunities live. Click on All Opportunities. Come to the one that I created for this morning's class. I'll go to Documents and click on Start a Transaction. Now let's see if it works this time. Oh, no. All right.
Welcome to my world, Nicholas Kerr.
Oh, the joys.
Oh, the joys.
All right. I'm going to try it one more time. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to go directly into DocuSign. No. Okay. Well, DocuSign doesn't seem to want to work this morning, so my apologies. So theoretically, what would happen is you would click on Start a Transaction and it would open up DocuSign in a new browser window and would have you log in and then would create a room that is linked to this transaction. However, for this morning's training, I want to jump into DocuSign so that way you can actually see how the program works and how to add documents and everything. So I'm going to open up a new browser window myself. All right, so I'm going to go to DocuSign.com. All right. Why is it doing this? DocuSign.com. All right. I'm going to click login. Now I've already created my account. I connected everything in the command settings, so I'm good to go. This is what you would see when you clicked on start a transaction. It would have you log in.
But this isn't connected to command at all.
So that's correct. So this room that I'm about to create for today's training is not going to be connected to my opportunity because I wasn't able to click start a transaction. But I will be able to show you, I can show you another opportunity that is, so that way you can get the full idea of the benefit of having the two systems linked. Question, who do you call for tech support at KW when you have a question? I would recommend that you submit a support ticket through command to labs, and they will be able to answer your question for you.
Whoa, I wasn't aware of that. Can you say that again, Nick?
So if you have any tech questions or need help, you can submit a support ticket in command, and then they'll get back to you and be able to answer your question for you. I'm obviously here to, I'm assuming that if this is something that you and I are unable to fix together.
Well, you know, and for others on the call, I was in a crunch situation last night or night before and needed help. And Nick was at dinner with his mom and he called me back. So would that have been an example, Nick, of when I could have submitted a support ticket? Are they timely in their response?
No, I think your question last night was pretty simple, but this can be more of like this. So with my command not connecting to DocuSign, that would be something that I would want to submit a support ticket for. But your question was more about how to actually use DocuSign. And so it was fine to reach out to me. So that way we could take care of it in 2 seconds.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I'm manually creating a room here. So just bear with me here. So Main Street Northeast, Stark Pots listing. My role, I'll make agent owner, list side, click save. All right. So when you click on start a transaction from command, it's going to create this room for you in DocuSign, and it's going to drop you into the documents tab of that transaction. If you have, this is going to be your first time signing into DocuSign, you're going to have to confirm your NRDS ID. And there's 2 places to do it. The simplest is going to be in the Documents tab. If you click on Add, and then DocuSign Forms, this would be the process of how you would add GAR forms to your room. But we click on DocuSign Forms, and the screen is going to pop up for us to select Realtor. And the reason you need to select and confirm your NRDS ID is because all of the GAR forms are copywritten. So they need to make sure that you have paid your dues to be a member of the National Association of Realtors and the Georgia Association of Realtors and have access to use those forms. So when you get to this screen, click on the Realtor logo, and it's going to ask for your NRDS ID. I imagine you probably don't know this. I've only met 2 agents that do. So to find it, you can click on the Find Your NRDS ID link right here. And this will take us to a screen where we can type in our last name, email, and real estate license number to find our ID. So I'm going to use last name and license number. And then just click submit. And there's my ID number. So I'll just copy this here. So I'm going to highlight it, copy, and I'll come back into DocuSign. I'll paste that ID number there. And then now I need to select Georgia Association of Realtors from the association list. Just scroll all the way to the bottom, and Georgia Association of Realtors is about 10th from the bottom. I don't know why it's not in alphabetical order. And then just click validate, and it will confirm that I'm a member of those associations. And then if this is your very first time confirming, another screen will pop up asking you to confirm acceptance of the terms of the National Association of Realtors, and just click accept there, and you're good to go. So now I have confirmed my NRDS ID. There's another way you can do it too, which I'll show you just very quickly. Up in the top right-hand corner where you have your picture or your initials, Click on that, and then click on Preferences. And then come over to the left-hand side menu and click on Integrations. And if you scroll down, you'll see here's NRDS ID information. It's the same information here that you need to input. And there's also a link over here to the right-hand side that says Find Your NRDS ID. And that'll open up that search capability for you to easily look up your NRDS ID. But be sure to do that before you do anything else in DocuSign, because you won't be able to use the GAR forms if you don't. If you're a new agent, check with Amy. I think that as you join the office, she will join the Atlanta Realtor Association on your behalf. So just make sure you connect with her so everything gets taken care of so you can get that ID number. Perfect. So that is how you confirm your NRDS ID. Let's see, you have 2 chat questions. How do you make a change to a document after everyone has signed it? Is it okay for me? So Ramsey, I'm going to answer that question about how to make a change to a document later on once we kind of get to that portion of the training. And then Susan, yes, labs is pretty much 24/7, but I always recommend that you submit a full ticket rather than chatting with support. So that way you can have an email chain back and forth. All right, so I'm going to go back into my room. Now, when I come back in my room, I'm in the Details tab. And the Details tab is going to be really important for you to fill out the information, because this is where you're going to add all the details of your transaction, your property address, sales price, list price, your client's information, all of that. Now, 9 times out of 10, when you start a room in DocuSign from command, it will pull over your contact's information, so your client's information, directly out of command. But since this morning it wasn't working, I'm going to have to manually add all of that information. So to get started adding that information, click on Edit in the top right-hand corner. And then we just go through and add the information. And I always recommend you start at the top and work your way down. So over here, you can see this is the name of the room. And I gave this name when I started. The name for your room will be the same as the opportunity name as in command when you start a transaction. You don't need to change that. So MLS ID. A lot of questions that I get from agents is if DocuSign will pull over the information out of FMLS like it did in .loop. And unfortunately, it does not. You do have to manually add all the information, but it's pretty simple, I promise. And once you put it into the Details tab, it'll load properly in all of your documents. So I'm just going to give this a fake MLS ID number, and then property address, 6789 Main Street Northeast, Atlanta. This is Fulton. This is actually a real address. I just looked it up this morning. Postal code 30342. Property type, residential attached. Year built. Wow, let's just do 2014. And there are no special circumstances. All right, listing details, listing date, let's do the 25th. Listing expiration, let's do August 25th. Original listing amount, let's do $425. Current listing, $425. All right, and we'll scroll down. We don't have any offers yet because this is a brand new listing. Highest bid, closing details. We don't have any of that information yet, so we're fine. We don't need to fill out that information. But as you do learn that throughout the process, be sure to come back and fill that in. Now we need to add our contacts, our clients' information, and all of that is on the right-hand side. So for this morning's training, I am managing a listing. So I'm going to input the seller information, but I'll show you where and how to add the buyer's information as well. So seller 1 is going to be Tony Stark. This is my made-up client for today. Okay, and email kwfatech@gmail.com. And for DocuSign for your clients, you really just need their name and email address. So that way you can send them documents. But you can fill in the rest of the information if you like. Seller 2, Pepper Potts. And I'm going to use my personal email address for Pepper. And then I'll scroll down. listing agent. So I'm going to add myself here. So Nicholas Core, cell phone. And then I would recommend that you put in all of your information here. So again, this will likely pull from command, but not always. Keller Williams, First Atlanta. One thing I would also recommend is when you see a company, it's going to default to Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta, but I would recommend that you update it to Keller Williams First Atlanta, because when it has realty in there, the text gets too big for some of the places in the GAR forms, but Keller Williams First Atlanta fits perfectly. So type in the address, Glen Ridge Point Parkway, Suite 100, Atlanta, country, the United States, state, Georgia, 30342. All right. So
And
now,
Nick, just as a question, may I just jump in and ask a
yeah,
question?
of course, absolutely.
Okay. So I think I learned you have to put United States in there.
Yep, you can't skip that or no state will pop up.
Right. And in DocuSign, if you're coming from command, does your information live there, and or do you, in every transaction, do you need to fill this in for yourself?
So 9 times out of 10, DocuSign will pull all this information out of command. So it should be good to go, but I always recommend that you double check the information and make sure it's correct and add any missing information if it's not added properly.
Right, thank you.
Yep. So continuing to scroll down on the right-hand side, if you have a co-agent or co-listing agent for this property, you would add his or her name here, same information. And then if you're representing the buyers on the buyer side, fill in their information over here. So you have buyer 1, the same name and email address, buyer 2, name and email address, and then buyer agent, that would be yourself. Now, if you wanted to, and I, as a listing side, I could come in here and add the buyer's agent information. Once I receive that contract and we go under contract, I could add them here to simplify things. But I do always recommend that you send PDFs to co-op agents, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later as well. So make sure you add buyer agent information. This should likely be yourself, and then buyer agent 2. The reason I want to point out the buyer side of this as well is because you have to scroll pretty far down this page to get to buyer 1 to start filling in their information. So I just don't want you to think that you're missing it or it's not there. Just keep scrolling and make sure you add it. So then once all the information's been updated, click save. The room has been updated, so we are good to go. So now I can just come up here, double check everything, perfect. Good to go. All right, now we're gonna go to the Documents tab. And this is where we are going to start adding our GAR forms to our room. To add forms to your room, you're going to click on the Add button in the top right-hand corner and select DocuSign Forms. And this is where you have access to the GAR forms. Sometimes this gray screen will pop up. If it does, just give it a second. It will load this pop-up menu. Sometimes it's a little slow. Just be patient. So we'll select the DocuSign Forms library, and then we'll select the Georgia Association of Realtors. I don't know why the Greater Alabama MLS is in there. I don't know how to remove it. Just ignore it and select GAR. And now it'll pull up every single GAR form that is in DocuSign, which is both a blessing and a curse, because when you are searching for forms, a lot of the forms have very similar names. So I would recommend that you start to learn the form numbers that you regularly use. I've also been asked by agents if they can create groups of documents that they regularly use, like, for all the documents that they would use for buyers transaction and all of them that they would put for a listing. You can't really do that the same way as you could in .loop. The MCA office is putting together some groups of documents, but before they put those out here, they want to make sure that everyone is familiar and comfortable using DocuSign first. So those should be coming And there are a couple workarounds that I could talk with you about if you really wanted to make that yourself. So today we're doing a listing. So I will look up my exclusive listing agreement, which let's see, here we go. Perfect. F101. And then I also need my seller's property disclosure statement. Land lot, here we go, F301. And so you can see here, there's a lot of different options for seller's property disclosure. So make sure you read through the names of all of them, because I have found myself more times than I care to admit having pulled in the incorrect form, and I'm halfway through filling out. I'm like, oh no, I'm not, this isn't a condo or new construction or something. So just be mindful. That's why I recommend learning the form numbers. And then we'll do, so that's seller's property disclosure. We need the community association disclosure. And then anything else, I think we should be good. Now, while we're here, I do want to pull in the purchase and sale agreement. I know that for the example today that we're going through a listing, but I just want to walk you through filling in a purchase and sale agreement, because it'll probably be one of the most commonly used forms and probably one of the most important ones. So I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable and familiar with that. All right, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to type F201, perfect, and click add. And now you can see as you start to add documents, it'll update this counter down here in the bottom left-hand corner so you know how many forms you are adding. So I'm going to click add, and then the page will reload, and my forms will be here. Now, one thing I want to point out is that you can see here we have the name of each form, and then in this bottom left-hand corner of the icon, it's a blue logo that says form. That's very important to keep in mind, because this form is something that you can edit throughout the entire process if you need to make any changes to your documents. So it'll be different once we have a signed version of that as well. So you can see here we have all of our forms, but I kind of want to separate my listing side documents from my contract documents. So I'm going to create a folder. So to do that, I'm going to click on Actions, Add Folder, and I'm going to name this Listing Agreement, and I'll click Create. All right, and you see it adds the folder here. Now there's two ways that you can move documents into a folder. You can click on it and drag it into that folder, which is fine. But if you want to move multiples over at one time, just select the document by rolling your mouse over the icon and clicking on the circle in the top left-hand corner. And then up here in the toolbar, come up to where it says Move and click on that icon, select Destination, Folder in Current Room, and then I'll select Listing Agreement Folder and click Move. And there we go. So now we have our documents separated. We have our listing agreement documents up here in the top, and then we have our purchase and sale agreement in the room doc folder. I do also want to point out that whenever you add a document to your room, or whenever you receive a signed document, it will always default to adding it to the room doc folder. So you're just need to move it accordingly. I also want to point out that you can organize your room however you want, have as many folders as you want, or as few folders as you want, because Lynn and Alita are not going to be looking at your DocuSign rooms like they used to look at your loops. So you can have it set up any which way you want. All right, so let's go through and let's start filling in these forms really quickly. So I'll start with the seller listing agreement. So we'll just open it up, give it a second to load. And you can see here, it pre-populated the information based on what I added to the details tab, but there's still a lot of information I need to go through and fill in. So I always recommend just start at the top and work your way down. So just add my legal description here. And I love to do deed booking page because it's pretty simple. And then kind of come down here, fill in the date. So I think we did 6/25/2020 through 8/25/2020. List price $425. Seller does. So you can see you just go through the boxes and check marks It's really simple. So we'll do FMLS, Georgia MLS, and KWLS. Commission. So I do want to clarify one thing. Today's training is really just about how to fill in the information and how to use the form, not exactly what information to fill in. Always refer to Lynn and Alita as our compliance brokers for exactly what to write in here, because everything in real estate is negotiable. So protected period. So I'm just coming in here, putting some info, all the information. You can just see how easy it is to click through. And that's all you have to do. So we'll scroll down. And then if you were going to send any brochures, you can just click these. These brochures are also in where you add documents. So same way to search for those. Special stipulations. Seller agrees to leave all utilities on in the home through closing. Or whatever stipulations you add to your listing agreement, but you can just easily add. You can just type in more steps here if you'd like. It's that simple. And then we'll scroll down. We'll see here it's added our seller's name, seller 1, seller 2, their email address, and then it's filled in most of my information, not everything. So you do need to come through here and fill in the rest of the information. So licensee phone number, fax number, license number. And one thing I really like about DocuSign versus .loop is you can't delete any of these fields. In .loop, there were so many times that I would make a mistake and I was like trying to delete what I wrote and I ended up just deleting the entire text box. But you can't do that here, which is really nice. Perfect. So I filled in all of the information and I'll click Save and Close. Perfect. So now let's open up our seller's property disclosure. And we'll kind of do the same for that. All right. So you can see it pulled in the address here. We're good to go. Now, as you scroll down through the seller's property disclosure, you'll see I don't have any fields here to fill in. I can't check anything. I can't write anything in. And that is on purpose. All of these fields for the seller's property disclosure, and you'll see in just a moment, the same for the community association disclosure, are mapped to seller 1. Because we as agents are not supposed to be able to fill in any of this information. It is all for our sellers to fill in. So I can't change anything here. And then it adds our client's name, seller 1, seller 2. Click Save and Close. Now, if you wanted to, you could print this document out and hand it to them, to your clients, and they could fill out with pen and, with ink. But we're not able to fill in any of that information. And then we'll check out the community association disclosure because it's going to be set up the same way. All right, offer date blank is fill in the address. And again, all of these fields and check boxes are blank. We don't have access to them. Perfect. Save and close. All right. So before we jump into the purchase and sale agreement, because I do want to fill that out, I want to point out that you'll notice that I only have the GAR forms here. I didn't add the affiliated marketing disclosure or the wire fraud prevention disclosure because those documents are added in the envelope. So before we send our documents out for signature, we'll add those really quickly. And the reason we don't add them in the documents tab is because there's nowhere on those forms for us to make any edits or changes. Those documents are only needed for signature. So we don't add them to the documents tab because there's nothing to change. All right, so now I'm going to get started filling in the purchase and sale agreement. What about the boxes where we need to add our names? Any boxes that you need to add your name, you can do that. The form should have already added your names to any fields that are needed, but you could always add your name in the envelope as well. All right. So purchase and sale agreement can be pretty similar to what you did in .loop. Just come through here and fill in the information top to bottom. So purchase and sale by purchase price of property. We'll just write an offer for $415. Closing costs, $5,000. And I'm just clicking tab to go from one box to the next. So let's do closing date of 7/26/2020. It's a month from today. Possession at closing. Holder of earnest money, KWFA. Closing attorney, Campbell and Brannon. $4,000 for earnest money within 3 days. Lead-based paint was not built prior. So I'm representing the seller as client. And let's say the selling broker is Harry Norman. Again, I'm just trying to fill in the information so you can see how simple it is to actually type in these fields. Please do not refer to any of the information I'm actually filling in for when you write a contract. So we'll do 5 p.m. for 6/27/2020. All right, and then we'll scroll through, see what other fields we need to fill in and boxes we need to check. All right, so now we have our disclosure. So we will add seller's property disclosure as A, community association disclosure as B, and then conventional loan exhibit as C. And perfect. So, and then special stipulations, buyer to provide financing contingency within 24 hours of binding. To be added to contract as exhibit C. All right. So you add some stipulations if you want to write some more. Some more steps, really simple. One thing I've heard from a lot of agents is that this stipulation box isn't very big. I don't know why they only size it this size. We're unable to change the font size here to make it smaller so you can add more. You could always add a text box in the envelope, which I'll show you, but I would probably, just to make it simpler, I would probably say just go ahead and add the additional stipulations page. And that way you can have a whole page of just stipulations, be really easy, and you can have that already pre-filled in if you wanted. So to scroll down, all right, it adds our clients' names and email addresses. Now, this is a purchase and sale agreement, so it's going to be shared with the co-op agent. Your first inclination here is going to be to delete your client's email address. I know I always deleted my client's email addresses on any documents I shared with the co-op agent. However, if you delete any information or change any of the information from pre-populated fields, it will delete that information out of the details tab, which means it will delete it from the room. And then when you go to send this document out later for signature, there won't be an email address to send it to. So I will show you how to black out your client's email address when we're in the envelope to ensure their privacy. Now, I'm sure 9 times out of 10, your co-op agent is going to be respectful of the relationship that you have with your client. I always like to err on the side of caution and just not even have the opportunity exist. So I'll show you how to black that out and protect your clients. So don't delete it here. And then we'll scroll down. We need to fill in the missing information. Fax number 531-5708. we are a member of the Atlanta board. 5708 MLS office code KWFA 01 H33313. I have heard from a lot of agents asking if we can have this information pre-mapped and filled in. I've asked if that's possible. It's potential. And then if you wanted to be really nice, you can come over here and you could type in the co-op agent's information. We can do Susan Smith, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you could just type in your co-op agent's information as well. So once you're good to go, click Save and Close.
Nick, can I ask a question? I don't see where you raise your hand or type in a question. So.
You can just, you can just ask a question.
Back to blocking out your clients' email addresses. Yeah. That also means the closing attorney can't see that. I like to have that there now so that the closing attorney can immediately and directly send their forms to all the clients. I know this is not about filling in the forms, but thoughts on that? I think I'd rather trust my co-op agent, unless they really give you reason not to, and leave that there for the flow.
So that's, I mean, if that's how you like to do it, then by all means, if you feel comfortable, do it. I don't. So the way I get around it is when I write my email to my closing attorney, I include, like, in the email, seller one, name, contact, co-op agent. So it's in the email. So
I see. So they can reference it and have the information from a source other than the contract.
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So that's how I get around it. And then, Sean, did that answer your question? Just want to make sure everyone's good to go before we move on. So we've gone through adding the documents to the room. We filled in the documents. Any questions or anything you want to see again before we go to create an envelope and prepare these documents to be sent for signature? All right. So now we're going to prepare an envelope. And the way Michael New explained it to me is that think of an envelope as a manila envelope where you would physically put a document to send or to hand to your client for signing. Say, hey, here are all the documents you need to review, please sign them. It's the same thing here in DocuSign. So now we're going to create, let's see. Excuse me. So Sean, okay, so Sean, I'll answer that question in just a minute once we get to that part of the training. So now we're going to create an envelope. There are two ways to create an envelope. The first way is when you're in the Documents tab, you can roll your mouse over the documents you want to select and then click on the circle in the top left-hand corner. Oh, I just opened that up. My apologies. It's going to have to load before it lets me close. Just click X, click on the circle there. Now, whenever you select a document, this toolbar will appear at the top of the screen. And so once you've selected all your documents that you want to create an envelope, you can click on the icon that says DocuSign, and that will create a new envelope for you. But I want to create one from scratch, so I'm going to click on the Envelopes tab. And then in the right-hand corner, I will select New. And then, like everything in DocuSign, start at the top and we'll work our way down. So we're going to give this envelope a name. You will be sending multiple envelopes throughout a transaction, and that's fine. So you want to make sure that you name the envelope something that you'll remember and will help you keep track of when you sent documents and received them. So envelope name, so I'm going to do listing agreement and purchase and sale. Now, I don't imagine you'd probably send those together, but just for today's example, we will. And now we're going to add documents to the envelope. So to add the documents that we just worked in from the room, we will select Room Docs. So I'll click on the blue button here. It says Room Docs. And I will select all the documents that I want to add to this envelope and click Add Selected.
Nick, the purpose of adding to the envelope is to actually send, correct?
Yes. Envelopes are the only way that you are able to send documents out for signature in DocuSign. If you don't send it in an envelope, no one will receive it and there will not be any signatures added to it.
So otherwise, all the documents that you create actually live in the room.
Correct. All right, so now we've added all of the documents from the room, and I mentioned earlier that we add the affiliated marketing and the wire fraud prevention as a template in the envelope. So we'll do that here. So in this box where we add documents, I would click on Use a Template. And then I'm going to click on Shared with Me in the left-hand menu. And this is going to pull up a list of all of the shared templates that the MCA office have put together for us. So you can see here, there's a fair amount of documents. I'm going to scroll down. I see we have our affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention. And you'll notice it says buyer in the front of it. And if I scroll down, there is a seller version of this as well. Be mindful, you have to select the version of these documents based on which side of the transaction you are working on. So for today, I'm working on a listing, so I'm representing the sellers. So I will select the seller version. If you select the incorrect version, there will not be any fields for your clients to sign because they are all mapped back to those client roles that we added in the details tab. So just be mindful and double check that. Also, you'll find your pay at close in here if you need a W-9 wire request, any of that information as well. So I've selected the affiliated marketing and wire fraud seller versions, and I will select add version. And then very quickly, let's say you have a document on your computer, on your desktop that you want to add to send out for signature. To add that document, you would click on More here and then click Upload. And then you can add that document to this envelope. You can add some signature fields and it'll be good to go. So now we have, 6 documents in our envelope and they're all in alphabetical order. But I want to make sure that when my clients go to review and sign, they are in a very specific order. I want to make sure they sign that listing agreement far before they ever sign a purchase and sale agreement. So it is at this part of the envelope that you reorder the documents in the order that you want. So I'm going to grab my exclusive listing agreement and I'm just going to put my mouse, click on it and drag it to the first position. All right, and then I want to move the seller's property disclosure because I like that usually to be to my first document removed. So I have seller's property disclosure, then community association disclosure. Then I want my wire fraud, our affiliated marketing. And then I'll move this to the last position, so then wire fraud, and then my purchase and sale agreements last. You have to reorder the documents at this part of the envelope because you won't be able to change it in the next screen where we go to add signatures. So it's really simple. Just click your mouse down and drag it into the position that you want. All right. So now that we've added all of our documents and we've put them in the correct order, we're going to add recipients to the envelope. This is where you're going to add people to the envelope that need to review and sign documents. So to do that, click on the Add Recipient button and select pre-tagged roles. It is very, very, very important that you select pre-tagged roles because all of the fields for signature and for the sellers to fill in for the disclosures are going to be mapped to these roles. If you do not select pre-tagged roles, DocuSign will not know which person is responsible for filling in anything or signing which fields, and no one will be able to do anything. So always select pre-tagged roles when it's available. So I'll select pre-tagged roles. So I'll select seller 1 from the drop-down menu. I'm going to select Tony Stark. Select seller 2. I'm going to select Pepper Potts. And I'm going to select listing agent. I'm going to select myself. All right. And then I'm going to click add selected.
Nick, I think here's where I made a mistake. I think I clicked room participants. And so my frustration was you have to go through all those documents and they load and scroll slowly and assign all those signing positions.
Yes.
So by choosing pre-tagged roles, I would have eliminated that step, correct?
That is 100% correct. And
Thank you. That now you know why I was frustrated at having to redo everything.
well,
Part of the reason.
let's say if you, I'll show you in the next screen, but if you ever realize, oh, whoops, I selected room participants rather than pre-tagged roles, you can just go back into this screen, remove those participants, and then re-add them as pre-tagged roles.
Yes, do show that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've selected our pre-tagged roles, and you'll notice over here on the left-hand side of each one of their names is a box with the number 1 in it. This box is the signing order of the recipients will receive to sign these documents. So right now, everyone, the seller 1, 2, and myself as an agent will receive them all at the same time. However, there are going to be times when it's critical that one person reviews and signs the documents before the other. In this case, seller 1 is going to be mapped to fill in all of the information for the seller's property disclosure and the community association disclosure. So I would recommend that seller 1 sign these documents first, and then have seller 2 sign at second position. So that way, let me just click up this really quickly. So then that way, when Pepper receives the documents for review and signature, it has all of the filled in information that Tony had added. So that way, when Pepper signs, she is reviewing that information and signing that it is all correct. And then it'll come to me for signature, and I can make any documents binding that need to be bound. You could leave it as 111 if you wanted to, or you could make yourself sign first and then seller 1 and then seller 2, whichever order you prefer. I know everyone has their own different rhyme or reason for how they like to set up signing order.
Nick, point of clarification here.
Yep.
Do I understand that the seller can fill out the property disclosure and the community association disclosure online?
Yep.
Here?
Yep.
Oh, so they don't have to print it in. It's whatever you call it.
Yeah, the fields are editable, so they can, when they go to sign, they'll be able to fill it in, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment because it is kind of tricky.
All right.
But yes, I'll show you so that way you can give a heads up to your clients as needed.
All right.
So within each one of our participant boxes, you can see there's this drop-down menu that says need to sign. And they have different regulations of what you can assign to this person. So needs to sign is going to be the default. Needs to view, receives a copy, specify recipient. I'm going to say 95% of the time, it's just going to be needs to sign. You could add a needs to view or receives a copy. Let's say, for instance, if you're working with maybe first-time buyers that are really young and their parents are maybe helping them with the down payment, they want to be really involved. They could ask to receive copies of all the documents, and you could do that directly here from DocuSign. Just throwing out as a scenario, that is something that you would want to manage with your clients and their parents or anyone else that wants to receive a copy. So you can change those regulations there. And then to the right of that is a more drop-down menu. And here we can add an access authentication code. So if your client is really skittish about signing things online and they want to have that extra level of verification so someone couldn't just break into their email account and start signing purchase and sale agreements for $500,000 homes on their behalf, you can add this code. So to do that, just click on the add access authentication code, and then you can just create a code right here. Now you'll need to give this code to your client and say, hey, Tony, when you click into to log into DocuSign, it's going to ask you for a code, type in 12345, and then it will allow you to start signing. Perfect. But for today, I want to discard that. And then the next is add a private message. So if you want to add a private message for one specific client, you can do that here. So for Tony, Tony is in the seller 1 position. And I'm going to say, please be sure to fill in the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure before clicking finish. This is a quick reminder that he needs to fill that information in before he clicks finish. But now this message will only go to Tony because it's only relevant to Tony. So now we have our participants added as pre-tagged roles. We've selected our signing order. I've added a quick message for just Tony. So now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to add a quick message to all of our recipients. I recommend you leave the email subject as please DocuSign and then update to the property address, Main Street Northeast, and then the documents they'll be signing, listing, agreement, and purchase and sale. And then a quick message of please review and sign at your earliest convenience. Thank you, Nick. So good to go. So everything for creating your envelope is all set up. I'm now going to come up to the top right-hand corner and click next. And this is going to take us to the editor where we can start adding signature fields, adding any missing text boxes, and all of that. So a couple things I want to show you before we get started. Up here in the top left-hand corner, you can see it shows Tony Stark's name with a little yellow dot next to it. I can click on that and it'll show a drop-down menu of each one of the recipients, and they each have their own color designation. And you can see over here on the left-hand side, these standard fields are yellow when it's selected as Tony Stark. Change it to pepper, turns to blue, and change it to myself, and it turns to purple. And that's because as you go through a document, you'll be able to see all the places for signature are color coded. So let me come to the end here. So you can see, I can just quickly tell that this box is assigned to Tony because it's yellow, Pepper is as blue, and myself as purple. It's that simple. And that way, if you need to start adding text fields anywhere throughout here, you can double check to make sure that they are assigned to the appropriate person based on the color. Then over here on the right-hand side, we have a thumbnail version of all the documents. So you can click on exclusive seller listing agreement, and you can just click on one of pages and it'll jump you right to that page. And then you'll notice here, it has these little tabs, and that lets me know that there is a place for either review or signature for each one of those color designations on this page. So that's seller 1, 2, and listing agent are to sign on this page. Now I'm going to go to the seller's property disclosure. So as I scroll down, you can kind of see that all of these boxes and fields, these radio buttons, are all outlined in yellow. That's because these fields are mapped to seller 1. So Tony will be able to fill in this information. And so I'm going to click on this text box here, and this little menu will pop up over here. You'll notice that the required field isn't filled in. So I want to point it out because when I send this to Tony to sign, DocuSign is going to jump from required field to required field, which is usually going to be a signature field. So it's going to jump right over all these fields that he needs to fill in for the seller's property disclosure. That's when I'll have to send a quick reminder. Hey, Tony, when you go to sign, it's going to jump from signature to signature line, but please be sure to scroll back up and fill in all of the information on those disclosures. So he knows to look for it. So you can see all these fields are yellow. I can't change anything here. I can't do anything because it's all mapped to Tony. So just keep scrolling down till we get to the bottom. Lots of little text fields. You can see here we have Tony signed and Pepper's going to sign. Same thing for the community association disclosure. All of these fields are mapped to seller 1. this is why it's so important that you select pre-tagged roles, because if you just selected room participants, these fields wouldn't be mapped to anybody and no one would have the ability to fill in. And so they would have to print it out to fill in any of the information.
Nick, before you send these in this format, when do you add the exhibit number and the date?
So up here is the exhibit number and offer date. So since I'm in this example, I'm just sending them to fill in for the first time. But let's say you are the buyer's agent and you are going to send this as a part of an official offer. You could add it right here. So I would add a text field. So I'm going to do this under myself. I'm going to select the text field here, just add text. And then I usually like to do the community association disclosure as exhibit B. And I'm going to uncheck required field and check read only. So that way, as a read only, it'll show up for everyone throughout the entire process when they go to sign. And I'll add a text box here of an offer date of, looking at 6/26/2020, uncheck required field and check read only.
Gotcha. I have skipped that step. I remember that and I've forgotten that. And then when I go through to sign it, it stops me at that box and says required field.
So, yeah. So if
I've already typed it in as a text box, I just click and it takes me on through it. But
yeah, so if you have that required field checked, it's going to have you click your mouse in that field to fill it in or change it before going on to the next field for signature. So that's why I always uncheck required field and check read only.
Okay.
All right, so scrolling through to our community association, all this is mapped to seller one. Scroll to the bottom, double check their initials are there, good to go. Now we're at our affiliated marketing disclosure, same thing. Now, for whatever reason, the signature boxes kind of mess up here. So just move them up. I don't know, Michael, I've been talking with Michael New about it. I don't know why it does that. So just move those up. This is why I say always go through and double check everything. Same thing here. Move that signature box up.
And Nick, did you physically add those date boxes or does the system do that?
The system automatically adds all these boxes. I have not added any signature fields yet.
All right, but when the actual signature, when the client actually signs, it is date stamped, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right.
This will be date right there.
Okay.
So scrolling down, now we're going to the purchase and sale agreement. I have a couple questions. How do we add more than one person to sign? It's only allowing me to choose one person. But it did populate my seller twice. Why did that occur? Did you accidentally add your seller as seller one and seller two? Would be the only thing I could think of as to why it would show twice. All right. So continuing through the purchase and sale agreement, everything, you know, I always just give everything a double check. Perfect. We have our seller initials here. Keep scrolling. It does kind of take a second to load as you scroll through, and things seem to be extra slow today. All right. So remember earlier I had mentioned that this text box field for special stipulations isn't particularly long, and you may have a lot of stipulations you want to include. Here in the envelope is where you could add a text box. So I could just, and if you want to put in a bunch of stipulations, so more steps, even more, adding more, very diligent, a lot of steps, COVID step. So you can see, I can just add a bunch more steps here. And if you want to add a lot, just like so many of them, you can come over here to formatting and you can make the font smaller. So that way you can fit more of them in there if you wanted to. I'm just going to leave it as a 9 font. But one thing I also want to do is I want to uncheck the required field and leave it as a read only. So that way, as it's going through signatures, all those stipulations will show up for everyone signing, and I won't have to make any edits or changes to them. So that is one way to get around the size of this stipulation box in the purchase and sale form.
Nick, in the event you overlook unchecking the required, they can tab through it as well, correct?
It'll only be required for you or whoever it's affiliated with.
Okay.
So they won't have to make any changes or click on it or anything.
All right.
So scrolling down, you can see here we have our seller 1, seller 2, and here's their email address. So I promised you I'd show you how to black it out. So the way to do this is over here on the left-hand side, click on this pencil icon, which is the markup tools, and then select line. Click on that and just bring your mouse over and drag a line across the email address. Now it's going to default to red, but you can come over here. You can change the color to black and then change the thickness. Just make this a little bit thicker. And then it will cover up the entire email address. And then one thing that I like about DocuSign is that I can just, with the black bar highlighted, I can just click copy and paste. So now I have another line, and I can just drag this over my seller 2 information and good to go. So now that information is blacked out. No one can see it. Now scrolling down on the purchase and sale agreement, for whatever reason, whether you're on the listing side or the buyer side, it doesn't map correctly. So you'll need to double check this and add yourself as a signer. So I'm going to add a signature here for myself. And then I'm going to add a date sign box right here. So just double check to make sure, because if you don't add it, there won't be any place for you to sign. I've already sent a note asking them to fix that mapping issue, so that way you don't have to do this every single time. All right, so we are about good to send everything out, but on the listing agreement, I want to show you something really quickly. So I'm back on the listing agreement. Here you can see a copy of this agreement, hereby acknowledged by seller. So I can go ahead and I can make this binding by adding a date box here. So that way when I go to sign it, because I'm going to be the third seller, or sorry, the third signer. So add a date box here, and then I can add a text box here, and then I'll add a text box here. Now I am going to leave these as required, because as I am signing it, I want to make sure I type in the exact time that I go through and I make this document binding, because DocuSign will send copies of all of the signed documents out to all the signers once it's all good to go. So this will save me a step of having to go through and make this document binding. So we've gone through, we've double checked to make sure that all of our signature fields are added correctly, added missing ones, we've added some text boxes, made sure everything's good to go. So now I'm going to click send. But before I click send, I want to click recipient preview, because I want to see what it's going to be like for my sellers when they go to sign. So I'll click recipient preview, and it's going to load kind of a similar DocuSign experience. And then up here, you have what it's going to be like on a computer, what it's going to be like on an iPad, and what it would be like to sign on a phone. More likely not, they'll probably sign on a computer. And then I can change who I want to view these documents as. So I can click Tony, and it'll load the documents based on all the fields and everything that's required for Tony. So I click start, and you can see it jumps me to the end to sign here. And then it jumps all the way past all the information for the seller's property disclosure. But Tony does have the right to fill in all of this, which I'm not going to do right now. But I just wanted to show. Let me come back up here to seller's property disclosure, click sign. Same thing for community association disclosure. Sign, sign, initial, sign, perfect. So that's just a test of what it would be like for your client to sign. Once you're done checking to make sure that all the fields are there appropriately, you can click on this X in the top right-hand corner. And now I'm going to click send. So while that is sending, I'm going to open up my personal email really quickly. All right, let me come over here. So you can't see this just yet. Okay, perfect. So let me stop share. Now I'm going to share my other screen with you. So now you can see I just received an email. This is as Tony Stark. So seller 1, please DocuSign 678 Main Street, listing agreement and purchase sale agreement. Click here. You can see here's the note that I wrote to everyone. Please review and sign at your earliest convenience. But the private message, be sure to fill in the SPD and CAD before clicking finish. So I'm going to go through and sign as Tony. And you can see exactly what that signing experience is going to be like. I'll click allow, and then I agree to use electronic records and signatures and click continue. So I'm going to click start. And it's going to jump me right to the end of the listing agreement. So if your clients want to go up and review it, just have them come up, scroll up. All right, this is all the good information we agreed upon. Perfect. Scroll back down, click sign. It'll ask them to adopt and sign a signature. Now it just jumped all the way to the end of the seller's property disclosure. So this is where you say, hey, please, once you scroll up for the seller's property disclosure, to fill in all the information. And I'm going to show you, this is how easy it is for your client to type in information. Just click on. No, I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing here, but just info, info, info. Yes, yes. They can just go through and click and type. It's that simple. They just have to pay attention to make sure that they don't jump past it, because none of these fields are required. So the system is not going to stop them to fill in all of the fields. So you get the idea of they can just go through and click, fill in, type in everything. All right. So then once they filled that in, and I'm just gonna, leave all this blank for time. Come here and click sign. And then it just jumped us to the end of the community association disclosure. So we'll just ask him to come right back up. Mandatory association, it's $1,000, 2 installments. Type in name, HOA. So he can type in all that information. And it's that simple. Pool, tennis, clubhouse, playground. And then he can initial, and then sign affiliated marketing, sign wire fraud, initial purchase and sale, and sign purchase and sale. Now, once he's done all of that, a button at the top of the screen will say finish. Your clients must click the finish button in order to finish, because if they don't, DocuSign will not think that they have gone through and finished everything. So the second seller will not be able to go through and sign. So make sure hey clients, be sure to click the finish button once you're all done. Click finish. It'll ask them to create an account. You can just tell them no thanks, it doesn't matter. Perfect. Now we're all done. So now I'm going to click in, let me close out of this. And now I'm going to click into my personal email. You can see I just got an email now, showed up. And this is going to be as Pepper Potts. And it doesn't have that private message here. It just says, please review and sign in your earliest convenience. So Pepper will now review documents. We'll allow, continue, start. So it's going to jump straight to the end of the listing agreement. Ask her to confirm signature, adopt and sign. Now, it just took us to the end of the community association disclosure, but I want to scroll back up because I want you to see how all that information that Tony filled in now shows up for Pepper when she goes to sign. So that's why it's important that you have a signing order. So all the information that Tony filled in, Pepper can review and say, okay, yep, this is correct, 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 correct. Perfect. And then can scroll down and click sign. And the same thing for the community association disclosure. Yep, okay, $1,000. There's all the information. Perfect, 250. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Initial, sign, sign, initial, sign. And you can also see here that their email addresses are blacked out. And the finish button appears at the top of the screen. So just click finish. All right, no, thank you. All right, we are all done. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and then I'm gonna come back and I'm going to share my Google Chrome. So we'll come back over here real fast. So I'm just gonna refresh the envelope because this is something that's pretty nice, is that once your other clients have signed it, I'll get an email. So you'll get an email notification that says, I'll say, hey, Nick, it's your turn to sign, please sign. But I don't actually have to click on that email. I can sign directly within DocuSign. So I can just click on the envelope because it says needs my signature. It shows me here that seller 1 is signed, seller 2 is signed, and I can click the sign button right here. And it's going to take me right into these documents to sign. So let me just click continue, start, sign. And then remember I added those text fields at the bottom of the listing agreement so I can make it binding. So I'm just gonna make this 12 p.m. Perfect, so I fill that in and just click next, sign, and then I'm finished. And it was that simple. So now it's saving it. And what will happen perfect. So let me just refresh it real fast and it'll show that this is completed. All right, let me just click refresh. It may take a second. All right, so it looks like it's completed. But what I want to show you really fast, so let me stop sharing this screen. I'm going to share my Safari. So click share. Let me come back over to Tony's email. And you can see Tony's got an email that said completed, please DocuSign. So this is all the completed forms. So these are automatically sent out to your clients so you don't have to worry that once you have your signed buyer brokerage or listing agreement about sending them out, and you can just click on the view completed forms. And this is all the forms that they have signed. Scrolling down. You can see there are their signatures, there's my signatures, and here's where I made it binding. So we're good to go. Community or seller's property disclosure with all that information filled in. And they can come up here to the top, that's thumbnails, to other actions. And they can download these. Sorry, download them right here in the middle. Sorry. Just click download and they can have them on their computer. Now, I would still recommend that as their agent, I would send them an email and say, hey, here are signed copies of all of your documents for your records and all the important information for each one of them. So I think that's a really great feature of DocuSign that it automatically sends them out for your client's review. Perfect, okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen. I'm gonna go back into DocuSign. So I'm back in here. Perfect. So now it shows the envelope is completed. I can click on it. It'll show the time that it was all signed. So I'm going to go into the Documents tab. And as I told you earlier, anytime that you add a new document or you have a signed document, it will default into the Room Docs folder. So you can see here, I have all these documents with green check marks on them that say signed. These are the signed copies of those documents. These are PDFs. Now I want to, organize my room again. So I'm going to select all of my listing agreement documents. Wire fraud, seller's property disclosure, and I'm going to move these up into my listing agreements folder. All right, so now we have all those documents. And let's say you want to send these all to your client, but you only want to send them one document. You can easily combine documents in DocuSign. So to do that, roll your mouse over the document icon, click the circle in the top left-hand corner, select all the documents you want to include. And as I mentioned earlier, whenever you select a document, this toolbar will appear in the top of the screen, and you can click on the combined icon. So I can give this a new name. So this would be 6789 Main Street Northeast, signed listing agreement. And I like to give everything a date. So today's the 26th, 2020. And then I can click on the name of the signed document here to put it in specific order. So I want the listing agreement first, then seller's property disclosure, then community association, affiliated marketing, and wire fraud. And then click save. Your room will reload, and it's going to add that document to the Room Docs folder. So you can see here, I'm just going to drag that up to my listing agreements folder. There we go. So now I have a PDF with all of those signed documents that I can easily download and send to my clients. So just double checking here. You can come up here to the top left-hand corner to say Document Actions and then click Download. It's that simple. Now, let's say you receive a document from a purchase and sale agreement that had from the buyer's agent that has everything in one PDF. What you could do is you could just add that to your room here. So you'd click Add, and then you would select Computer to download that. So let me come over here to a past client. Actually, let me just contract. All right. All right, so I'm just going to add this document to my room. I think it's just like a purchase and sale agreement from another transaction. So it just uploaded here. So let's say I want to split this document into multiple. So I'll open it up. And since this was an updated PDF, it just takes a second for the system to double check and make sure everything is in the right order. And it's in the right format. So we'll just give it a second. It's being extra slow today. So thank you for your patience. But what we can do is I can actually split this one document up into multiple separate PDFs. So that way I can keep track of it, because when I upload everything into Command for compliance review, they all have to be their own individual documents. All right. Well, this is taking its sweet time, and for time's sake, because we are getting close to the end, I'm just going to close out of this. And for example's sake, I'm just going to open up the document that I had combined. So now we have this document that's 20 pages, and I can show you how to split it up. So to split it, click on the paper icon with the little dog ear, Document Actions, and then select Split. And what this is going to do, this is going to show you a quick little preview of all the pages included in this document. So you can see, okay, perfect. Page 1 here is exclusive listing agreement. and I can kind of see, okay, that goes to page 8. So I can go 1 through 8, and it highlights those pages, and I can say signed listing agreement. Perfect. So that is going to be its own document. Now I want to add another document. So I click add, and I kind of roll my mouse over. See, okay, here we go, seller's property disclosure. That goes from page 9 to 15. 9 through 15. Signed seller's property disclosure. All right. I want to add another document. So I see here, this is community association disclosure, and that goes from page 16 to 18. 18, signed community association disclosure. We'll add another document. This will be page 19, and I know this is the affiliated marketing disclosure, and then add document page 20, and this will be signed wire fraud prevention disclosure. And then once you've gone through and you split your documents, click on save. Your room will reload, and then scroll down to your room docs folder. And you can see here I have the signed affiliated marketing, signed community association, signed listing agreement, signed properties disclosure, and signed wire fraud prevention document. And it's that simple. Now, a couple people had asked, how do you edit a signed document? So there's 2 ways you can edit the signed document. So let's say you've already sent out your purchase and sale agreement, everyone signed it, but the agent says, hey, you need to go back and edit this date, just send a clean version of that purchase and sale agreement. All right, fine, I'll send a clean version. Come over to your form version of the purchase and sale. So you notice it's the icon that has the blue color that says form. Just click on this, and it's going to open up that form of the purchase and sale agreement. And I can just come back in here and I can start editing. So let's say we've came to a sales price of $395, and they're only going to do $1,000 in closing costs. So you can just make all these little edits and then click save and close. And then you'd have to go through the process of creating an envelope and sending it out for signature again. But let's say you want to use the signed purchase and sale agreement, but you just want to make like a really quick edit. So you can select this and then come up here and select DocuSign. This is the super fast way of making an envelope. Click DocuSign. Updated purchase and sale. You can see it already adds that document here. I'm going to add recipients. Now, because this is a PDF, there aren't any pre-tagged roles. So here's where I would add a room participant. So I'm going to select Tony, Pepper, and I'll just add myself. Add selected. For time, I'm just going to skip an email. I'll come over here. I'll click next. And let's say we're just going to update the sales price on this. All right. So I can come over here. I can just make a quick little markup. I can just mark up and add a little line through that. We'll make it black. And now I want to add some text because I want to update that sales price. Let's update this to, we'll say $395, 1, 2, 3. Required field, I'm going to make it read only. And then I'm going to add, come to Tony. I'm going to add an initial box right here. I'll make that a little bit smaller. And then I'll come to Pepper. I'm going to add an initial box right next to that. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I had just added myself to this purchase and sale agreement as a recipient. You have to make sure that if you add anybody that's added as a recipient has to have some type of signing field within this document. So just for example's sake, I'm going to add myself as an initial here. Perfect. So now I've made an edit to a signed document and I've added the initials and I'll click send. And you can see here, I can just click sign because I send it to everybody at the same time. Continue, initial, finish. So now it's just going to be waiting on Tony and Pepper. And then once that is signed, it'll show up as a signed document in your room docs folder, and it'll show up as purchase and sale agreement signed-signed. So now you have all of your signed documents, everything's good to go. Now you need to send everything for Lynn and Alita to review for compliance. Now, here is where the real benefit of having DocuSign connected to Command comes into play. Had Command let us start a transaction and link our opportunity to Command, I could add those documents from all those signed documents from my DocuSign room directly into Command. And the way you do that is you would come to, okay, listing agreement, click add a file. And then right here it says source of documents. It would have DocuSign as an option here, and I would select DocuSign. Then when that would happen, a list of all of the documents that I have in my DocuSign room will appear, and I could select the signed listing agreement document and click assign. Or if you wanted to add multiple files at once, you could click the attach multiple files. Again, up here at the top for a source, you could select DocuSign. And then for each one of these little boxes here, a drop-down menu would appear and you could select the specific document needed for the listing agreement, for the community association agreement or disclosure, seller's property disclosure. And then once you have them all assigned, click attach. And then once everything is attached, you would click this button, submit to MC, and that is submitting to the Market Center for Lynn and Alita to review for compliance. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to show you that last part because that really is one of the benefits. Now, what I would have to do in this example is actually go into DocuSign. Let's see, where's my signed listing agreement? Signed listing agreement. Download this. And then come back over here. Listing agreement, add file. Drag that there, and then click assign. So that's the steps that you'll have to do if you're unable to link your room or if you use RDocs or .loop and don't have them connected. And now I can click submit to MC. So we're right at 11:30. What questions do you have? Anything you want to see again before we jump off? I'm here, not in any rush, so let me know what questions you have. Everyone's good to go? All right. Well,
I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, this was great. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
I learned a lot. I'm getting ready to list a property, so it'll be my first time doing all this. But where can I look at this again? I know you're recording it.
Yeah. So after this, I'm going to upload it to the KW First Atlanta YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
And this afternoon, I will send out a tech update, and I will include a link to the YouTube video of this. But
Okay.
if you want to look at a video before then, you can go to the KW First Atlanta YouTube channel, and there's video recordings of all my previous DocuSign trainings as well.
Okay, great.
And then
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And then in the tech update email I sent last week, there was a download link to download a step-by-step PDF guide of everything we just walked through.
Okay.
You know, some agents want to watch a video and have it explained, and other people just want to read through it. So I put together a guide as well. So check that out if that's helpful for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You are very welcome. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, have a great rest of your day. As you're playing around in DocuSign and Command, please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions. I am here to answer them at any time. Just like Connie said, I'd rather spend 2 minutes on the phone than you spiraling and getting really frustrated and spending 30 minutes trying to figure it out. The guide was in the KWA KWFA Tech update email I sent last Friday, which was the 19th. But if you can't find it, Susan, send me a quick note and I can send it to you again. So anyone have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you.